The genesis of thought was that whatever is moving today where somebody is driving, because cars are
Will be
becoming autonomous.
autonomous.
So he said, okay,
Right,
if
right.
cars are becoming autonomous, everything which is moving should become autonomous. That is something which I tell all the founders when I meet them. Be very clear on your customer base. Your customer base should be the ones which is an established industry. Don't build something for an industry where industry itself is going through a transformation. It looks lucrative that, okay, I'll be able to ride the wave. It's difficult. It became very clear that there is a scope. Let's just now build it. And that's when that entire execution mentality, because we said it is
Right.
hardware, we have not done it. It's a difficult industry. Construction is not an easy industry to automate. There's a reason why the industry has not adopted technology a lot, right? There are a lot of forces at play. If you don't ask that question, you might find that 3 months later you have lost a lot of time and money in that.
Hi, Manish. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And it's great to meet with you finally.
Hi, Supriya. My pleasure. Yeah, happy to be here.
Okay, so as I was going through your LinkedIn profile, it says that you have mastered the art of execution. That is the key of any startup's success. So, which is what my agenda for the conversations are to understand how is it that you execute a very difficult hardware and robotics hardware startup. So to understand how is it that you did it all, I would like to go way back into how it all started. Like, where were you born? If you can tell me about your parents, because I think your growth in the initial phase, your childhood phase, kind of shapes up what you might end up doing. Of course, there are many factors over a period of time which affects that, but yeah, let's start from there.
Sure. So I belong to Rajasthan, born in a Marwadi family.
Oh,
My native place is Jodhpur. So I did my schooling as well as engineering from Jodhpur in Rajasthan. So born and brought up in a small business family. My father was into government service. Mother was a homemaker. So very humble beginnings. We started from there. And in my initial years, I think generally happens in a Marwadi family where you discuss a lot about business and trading. So all my uncles, everybody, it's a joint family. We used to stay
okay.
together. So my initial interest in the entire entrepreneurship probably is stemming from that particular experience in my childhood where I saw people around me doing trading, talking about business all the time and the way their lifestyles were. So I think that definitely had a lot of impact. And secondly, I think being in a tier two town, you have a very kind of your aspirations when you look up to people who are in the large cities who have a lot of facilities around them and their lifestyle that they are living. So I think somewhere that also motivates people
Okay.
from small town to come and make it big, right? So that entire push or motivation to dream big, do something which is out of of the league, build a legacy is all coming
Right.
from those formative years
Any
where
particular person
uh,
you looked up to?
my parents, of course, my
Okay.
father, I think the way they used to work selflessly and give all the facilities to us. I was the first engineer in
Oh, okay.
my family. I
What
was the
did you do
first one
engineering in?
to mechanical, mechanical, yeah.
Mechanical, okay.
And then I was the first person to do MBA in my family. So there are
Oh,
a lot of things which I think I had a great privilege get access to those facilities. A lot of people don't get that, and hence it became kind of as a somewhere the philosophy was ingrained that I have to make best of this. Right, I've got this opportunity. I've got all the facilities. Make
hmm,
do something in this lifetime to build a legacy and leave a mark on this planet. So I think it really probably comes all the way from there. So good that you asked
yeah.
that question.
Clearly,
I
you
really
have started
believe
on
that
that path, so for
yeah,
sure.
I really think that that probably helped. Also, some religious bent of mine, some of those principles that that I learned in my early
Right.
childhood, even till today. Sometimes when we take these tough decisions, those some of those preachings come and hit you that yeah, it's not that difficult if you have that framework. So I think that also has to some extent impacted my way of doing work and my way of living life, having a spiritual angle to it.
Okay. Nice. That's interesting. So, when were you introduced to the word robots or robotics?
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah,
So,
because you did
uh,
engineering. So
I did engineering, but in my engineering final year project, I created a robotic arm. But
you
that was
did.
more of a yeah. But that was more of a that okay, we have to do this project because
But that must be what year?
uh, that was 2002.
Wow, that's really
2002.
long. In 2002, building a
2002
robotic arm,
is
it
where we
says
build
something.
a robotic arm, right? So, but then very soon after that project, we realized that this is too early, and I really didn't know how the world would shape up in next 10, 15 years. So
But
after
why
that,
would you pick
I
a robot arm
as a
then?
mechanical engineer, there was some curiosity and say, can we do something about this? And it came as a idea out of the initial brainstorming, and they said, okay, can we do something? It was a very
With your
simple
other team
pick.
member?
Yeah, we have a four-member team, all
So is
four
it
of us.
like
We
you were
said
mentored with a professor as well,
there
or
was a
like
absolutely, yeah, we had
so
a
he kind
professor.
of
He
might
was
have gotten the
yeah, so
got in
he
the
gave us
conversation
yeah,
and
he gave us some thought that okay, that is something which is possible. Can you do that? But we were all four of us were from mechanical. They said, okay, you would need somebody who is a programmer. So we got a hold of a junior in our in comp science. He helped us in building the firmware and assembly and all. It was good fun. We sourced all the components locally, got those small pulleys, and all. It was a very interesting thing. But also we realized that this thing is probably kind of still ahead of its time. I don't think time has come for robots. And also then after that, for next 10, 15 years, very different trajectory. I never thought about robotics. I went ahead, did my MBA. Then I was working in IT sector for 7, 8 years. And then 2011, 2012 onwards, I'm doing startups. So this is my third startup. So my previous two startups were again not really into robotics. They were into
okay.
a B2B and B2C. My previous one was a tech venture. It was into online coaching for the government job exams. So I started that in 2014, ran that for 4 years. Eventually, our company was acquired by Reliance through their subsidiary called Mpipe. So I became part of Geo Mpipe, was working there for a few years. 2019, I think during COVID times, when I think autonomous navigation as a technology and robotics as a technology started becoming mainstream, right? We started hearing about autonomous cars and pilots happening on real world, and warehouse robotics was taking off, right? So 2018, 2019 is when I got interested into that. I was still not sure whether I'll do something in that space, but by 2020, which was post COVID wave one, I kind of realized that I want to do something into the field of autonomous navigation, autonomous mobility, uh, with might be it was still not very clear that it would be robotics. I said, okay, let it evolve, let it evolve.
You were just
So
interested in that field of
I was,
autonomy,
yeah,
maybe?
it was very clear because after 2 years in Reliance, I said, this is not my cup of tea. I want to come out and do something on my own again. And the approach was that, okay, next 8 to 10 years, you would see a lot of automation, right? What has happened
Right.
in last 20 years from 2000 to 2020, you would see in next 5 to 7 years, there will be a lot of automation which would happen across the board, across industries, both in consumer as well as industrial automation fields. Manufacturing, we could already see by 2020, a lot
Right.
of assembly lines were already automated. 70, 80% automation already happened through robotics arm from GE, from Honeywell, from
Automobiles,
Doosan,
yeah.
all others.
Hmm.
So it was very clear that now this automation would come to day-to-day consumer lives and also to other industries like, let's say, agriculture or a hospitality or a cleaning services or construction, mining. So that was the core insight that I got that, okay, this is just a
So
matter of time before robots actually become mainstream.
how did you come to this insight? Like, is it like through
So
news, like you liked
uh,
reading, or how is it? Or did you
it
discuss it with
it
some folks,
was,
or like how
I
was
think,
it?
it was a mix of all the three, I would say. I also did a top
Hmm.
down kind of a consulting mind framework that, okay, what is it that will
Okay.
take off in next few years. Then I
Oh,
also
okay.
did a lot of talking to people in industry, right? Generally, when we started talking to people, it became very clear that automation is not just a wave, it is a way of life. We'll keep automating. Humanity will keep finding ways to be more efficient, right? So and right now, the way to be efficient, the way to bring efficiency in late 90s was internet. In initial 2000s, it was, let's say, cloud-based services, right? So software was a way to automate. it became very clear to me that now what will happen is that the AI world will meet the physical world, and physical AI is where there is a lot of innovation which would happen.
Right.
And it would get not just innovation, it would also get converted into a lot of use cases which will get unlocked because now the capabilities are there. So kind of this insight was a mix of all these three, talking to people
So
in the
you got that
industry,
insight back when you were like kind of getting started,
getting
which is
started. Yeah,
interesting.
getting
It's
started.
about
Yeah.
how does that come into you?
Yeah, I was not really sure which industry, but I was kind
Right.
of clear that autonomous navigation as a
Autonomy.
stack and
Right.
maybe robotics as an offshoot of that is something which is here to stay. It is becoming mainstream now. It's just a matter of
Right.
time. But
Okay.
I was still not sure on
Okay.
what
So,
use
so, so
case.
before
Yeah,
before you get to the
sure.
next part, that how did you become sure and how did you meet your team? Just tell me your job profiles in each of your previous workplaces. Like, what did you
Ah,
handle? Yeah.
interesting. So in after my MBA, I was working with CFI Technologies. I was a consultant, supply chain consultant. Then
So,
I
what did
moved
you do?
to
What did you do as a
so
consultant?
so supply chain consultant. Basically, I was working on the forward supply chain, so distributor, retailer automation, right? So there were softwares which were connecting companies, manufacturers to dealers, wholesalers, and retailers. So I was working on consulting. How should large companies go about that, right? So worked with companies like ITC, Whirlpool, help them connect their dealer network back to the main office and streamline the entire communication. So that was my
Communication from the
focus area.
distributor to the
Distributor
consumer,
to the distributor to the company manufacturer,
to
right?
the
So somebody
company,
who
to the
is manufacturing,
manufacturer.
yeah. So
Oh,
manufacturer, like
got it.
let's say ITC for example has billions of distributors. How do you communicate their entire
Got it.
operations, inventory, complete? It's a art in itself, right? The entire supply
Okay.
chain automation.
Right.
Then I further went into that. I had a job of supply chain consultant into IBM. I was working with IBM for a few years. Again, doing supply chain consulting, specifically focusing on telecom and CPG verticals, forward supply chain consulting for
So
that.
this
So I
was
was kind
consulting
of
in IT sector,
in IT
not the
sector, yeah.
product, not the
Not
physical product.
not a physical product. It was consulting in
Right.
the IT sector on deploying these softwares to automate your supply chain.
Got
So
it.
that is what I was doing. Then kind of the profile changed to become a project manager, program manager for transformation projects. So that is what I was doing in IBM. But by 2011, I realized that I'm not really enjoying it, right? And one of the realization came when I saw people who were 10 years ahead of me. And when I saw them and I asked the question to myself that, is that what I want to become 10 years from now? I said, no, that is definitely not something I want to become. What I want to become, I don't know, but this is not what I
Right.
want.
No.
So
That's very important to
that,
know what not to do
so,
or not
so
to
that,
become.
that
It's
actually
very
somehow
important.
gave me this motivation to leave the job. And when I left IBM, I didn't really have any idea in mind. But
Hmm.
I said, it's not going to happen otherwise, right?
Right.
It cannot work in parallel, at least for me. So then I said, okay, let me just quit it. I was in Malaysia at that point in time. So I came back to India and started doing some internships here and there and figuring out. This was after 7 years of work experience. I said, let me do some internships here and there and try to
That's
figure out,
very, very interesting. And that's
do
very,
it. And
very brave of you. Yeah.
so that gave me some more projects. And then I got the idea into, because I was in supply chain consulting, I got the idea
Right.
on the backward supply chain, which is supplier integration. So I was doing distributor, dealer, wholesaler integration.
Right.
What about the other sides? That is where I saw a gap. There was no software, no really easy to use software for supplier automation. That became
Okay.
my idea
Can you
for my
elaborate
first
on that?
startup.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So basically, when companies purchase process is a
Hmm.
very convoluted process. You have to get the requirement, create the RFP, send that RFP to vendors. They will give the quote. All this was completely happening manual. Like this was 2011,
Okay.
2012 for SMEs, mostly SMEs, even mid-sized companies, large companies. This process was still manual. We were calling people, getting quotation from people on phones, writing it down. There were softwares like SAP, Ariba. There were softwares, but they were very expensive, very complex softwares, right? So Zoho was taking off as a CRM that time. So he's saying what Zoho is
Okay.
doing for CRM is what we want to do for suppliers, right? Zoho is for customers, manage customer relationship. You should have a supplier relationship management, which is very agile, very easy to use, like what Zoho, not a very complex system. So with that, we started my first company. I started called SourceWeb. So I started that in 2011 and built a procure to pay automation tool. Deployed it for a few customers. Ran that for 3.5, 4 years. A bootstrap profitable venture. But after 3 years, I realized that this is not scaling the way, that is not what I am setting out for. I don't want to build a lifestyle business and a small company. And I couldn't see the scale that it can become a 500 crore company, 1,000 crore company. I couldn't see that. I said, okay, this is not working. So then it was a profitable business, but we decided to come out of it. We got an acquisition offer where a company in US was interested in the IP, so we sold the IP, and both me and my co-founder we came out.
Nice.
And then with the same co-founder, I started a tech company, very different
Okay.
from supply chain, but again, kind of an insight which came during conversations with people that exams are moving online. So if exams are moving online, this was 2014, by the way. So if exams are moving online, then even the preparation has to move online, right? And government job exams, which is bank PO, SSC, railways, massive category, almost 20 million people take these exams every year, which is more than population for a lot of countries. It's that big a market. And now, if exams are moving online, then everybody has to prepare online, right? You have to give mock tests, you have to do practice tests, you have to get familiar with the UI and all that. So he said, this is the time. And that insight again kind of fueled that, okay, maybe there's a gap there which we can fill. So we created a company called Mock Bank, which was basically online coaching for the government job exams, bank, PO, SSC,
Okay.
railways, did all that. Uh, very interesting journey there. EdTech was new to us, but we scaled it really well in next 4 years. But after 4.5 years, again we hit a roadblock. We couldn't really raise money, and we couldn't also really scale that fast. And that time we received a acquisition opportunity. We actually got 2-3 opportunities, and we decided to go ahead with Reliance backed company called Envibe. So Envibe acquired us, Geo Envibe, and then I became part of Geo Envibe. Was working there for a couple of years, and again 2020, as I said, the cycle repeated. We said, okay, now not this is again not I want to
What
want to
next?
do with my life. I don't
And
want
then
to live
you
this
kind
life.
of switch to a
So
third wheel,
so
like a
then it
third
is a
completely
completely
new
different,
sector.
Yeah, this was completely new sectors. Again, coming from a very top-down, white space centric problem statement, right? That okay, I see this as a problem. This is something which is big enough. And by that time, obviously, I had a lot of experience from my previous two startups, the mistakes that we did, right? Choosing a very small problem or choosing a problem which is not scalable. All those learnings also helped. And obviously, the timing in terms of the way robotics and automation was taking off also helped. So maybe I think, yeah, stars aligned and they said, okay, this is what I want to do.
So how did it happen then?
So when we started, if you see the name of the company also, FloMobility, yeah, the
Hmm.
focus was on mobility. We said
Right.
we will be kind of starting with building some toolkits and stack that you can put on any vehicle and make it autonomous. So
Okay.
basically, we said that if cars are becoming autonomous, the other things which are being pushed,
Right.
pulled,
Right.
or dragged by humans, they should also become
Hmm.
autonomous.
Great.
But some of
Interesting.
them are very
Okay.
small things, right? For example, let's say a lawnmower, a cleaning
Hmm.
machine, a wheelbarrow. Right? These are all the small tools which are
Or
used
anything
for
in
moving
industries, I guess.
different
Yeah.
industries. All of them are in different industries. You have a pallet jack in a warehouse. You have a wheelbarrow on a construction site. You have a trolley for a garbage. So we can see that
Right.
there are a lot of things which are moving, and sooner or later these things also will become autonomous. But how would they become autonomous? Will they develop it by themselves, like the way Tesla did, or will they take the kit from someone else, like the way General Motors did, or later on they also acquired a company, right? So how it would, our thesis was that it would be a vendor would come, they would convert the existing machines into driverless machines. Can
Right.
we be that company? So with that
Interesting.
theory, we started and said, let's create a kit which will have bunch of sensors connect together, a small compute. You can retrofit this kit on any machine and
Hmm.
integrate with the underlying drivetrain to make it run without any human intervention. So
And how did you come up with that product?
then the point came, okay, we have to narrow down on a product, right? So we started looking for which is the product which is ready for automation, right? Because you cannot
Okay,
just like that pick anything.
we need to rewind a bit more.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
who are you talking all of this with?
So
Like, because is it like your own conversation that okay, I need to automate it, and how did you even reach there?
no, we were talking to people in the industry, right? So I was speaking to people in the mobility industry, people in like in Udo or Bounce, Pogo. talking to people in warehouse industry, talking to people in
So
the
you kind of
manufacturing
had this
industry.
thought, is it? Like, how did you have this thought that, okay, let's make something that's moving autonomous? Because
So
it is actually a very interesting thought,
yeah, so
which you got
the
way back.
genesis of thought was that whatever is moving today where somebody is driving, because cars are
Will be
becoming autonomous.
autonomous.
So he said, okay,
Right,
if cars
right.
are becoming autonomous, everything which is moving should become autonomous.
I'm just
How will
trying to
that happen?
understand how did you get there?
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
it's yeah. As I said, it's just a spark which says, right,
It's a
if this
spark,
is
yeah.
happening, will
Hmm.
this happen somewhere else? Okay, I think this should
Hmm.
happen at all the places wherever somebody is pushing something, pulling
Right,
something. Why
right.
should they do that? Because if
Hmm.
car somebody is driving, right? Why should somebody drive a car? Because that's how cars are driven. But now we are
So
making
it's
it
it
autonomous. So now can I apply this somewhere else? That was the genesis. And then that somewhere else led us to, okay, what else? What is that somewhere
what
else?
else?
Okay, what is
Yeah.
it? It's a
So
small
you kind of
machine,
started having these
large
conversations
machine.
with anyone who you think thought might.
Might be, yeah, more with
Okay, like
people
are
who
you
were already using. For example, I talked to somebody who is building an electric scooter and ask him,
got it?
okay, do you think autonomous scooter makes sense? Or somebody
Oh,
who is
okay.
making a lawnmower and ask him, have you thought about making autonomous lawnmower?
So
Do you
you
think
did
this will
that kind
autonomous
of, you
lawnmower? He
did that
started talking to people.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
from a very use case centric approach again, right? That technology, I'm convinced on that this is the technology which will take off. But on what use case? If I pick a wrong use case, the right technology, but if use case is not ready, uh,
Right.
I'll not be able to move anything for next 4 or 5 years, right? So with that intent, we started talking to people. In that process, I also got a small team with me from one of my colleagues from Reliance. He joined me as a co-founder.
Oh, okay.
We started that, and we said, okay, let's go about it. And our first product what we created was autonomous scooter. So it was basically
Okay.
a scooter on which you stand and ride. It's called kick scooter. So
Right, right.
that is what on our YouTube channel we still have that first product video where we have an
Okay.
autonomous scooter which is basically used for micro mobility, last mile of mobility.
Right.
So you come out of your hotel or restaurant, you book a ride, and the scooter comes to you. You get on the scooter,
Nice.
go to nearest metro station, leave the scooter there. It will go to the nearest parking or charging station, and then you continue your journey.
Oh,
So
it's one
that
of
is
those. So Google had come up with like a autonomous cycle, which was one
something
of their
like that.
one of their April Fool's
April Fool,
prank. But
April
you
Fool
actually kind of
pranks.
made
We
it.
actually did that. Yeah, it was a real product. It was
Yeah.
functioning product. I think the video might still be there on YouTube. But again, it was a wrong use case. We could, within a 3 to 4 months of development, we realized this is a wrong use case. The underlying industry itself is going through a transformation, micro mobility. And that time, there were a lot of companies. Bird was there in US, Lime, Tier was there in Middle East. We were talking to these companies and we could sense that they need this, but they are themselves are struggling. Right? They are also trying to
Okay.
find a
Find the
place for
use case.
themselves. A startup cannot work like this. That we are solving a problem for someone who himself is struggling to find a problem. You cannot build a startup like that, right? So that is something which I tell all the founders when I meet them. Be very clear on your customer base. Your customer base should be the ones which is an established industry. Don't build something for an industry where industry itself is going through a transformation. It looks lucrative that okay, I'll be able to ride the wave. It's difficult. It doesn't work like that in the real world. In real world, things take a very different flow. It doesn't work that okay, I'll create a revolutionary product, somebody will come and take it. Doesn't happen, right? When you are putting your mind behind a startup, you don't want to take punts. You can take calculated risk, but you have to have a very analytical way to come to this conclusion, right? Because it's one of the best years of your life that you're deciding to put after something.
Right.
Be very careful about what decision you take, right?
Mm.
So that did work, but I was still, as I said, convinced on the technology, right? That autonomous navigation will
Right.
take off. Maybe this use case was not correct, right? So let's
Mm.
keep looking for more use cases. So we created an autonomous sprayer for agriculture use case.
Okay.
Got one customer, but again, not getting that. Did not get. We raised some funds. By that time, we also raised around 3 crore, 3.2 crores is what we raised as a pre-seed money to keep doing these
Okay.
experiments. Then we built an autonomous lawnmower. Again, on our YouTube channel, we still have that video of autonomous lawnmower. But the use case was still not clicking. You're saying this is working, but how will this become a large company? You're still not able to see that path. And in that process, I think 1.5 years into that process, by 2022, late 2022, we came across construction. And the moment I landed there, we realized, okay, this is something which looks like a completely, because there's no automation at all. If you go to construction site, the amount of automation is very low. So compared to a assembly line for automobile company, you have to see that, okay, if one industry can automate so much, why is this industry not automating? Like, let's understand more. And then we went into details, and uh, I think it took 3.5 months for us. After 3.5 months, we kind of got a very solid conviction that this is a huge gap in the industry. Uh, Significant automation possible, so much opportunity to actually optimize stuff. Dependency on labor is a challenge. Availability of labor is a challenge. Cost of labor is a challenge across the globe. Even for India, we could see that globally it is a challenge. Even for India, we could see that availability and cost of labor is a challenge in construction industry. And then what happens also in construction industries, there are the type of tasks that there's a lot of customization, right? When you talk about every building is unique, right? There's so much customization which happens for every, it's not like assembly line, right? So you have to go and do the work rather than assembly line where machines will keep coming and you do your work and it will go to next station and next station, next station, right? So it's a different type of approach for automation that you have to take, where you have to go and do the work that is supposed to be done. You cannot bring the work to a robot or to a fixed automation machine. So, and the moment we started getting those insights, we said, okay, there's so many use cases: material movement, painting, wall finishing, tiling, uh, cleaning. You could see that, okay, there's enough and more here. Now, this is something that we should double down on. And then we stopped everything and went into completely into construction as a domain. And globally, we could see that, okay, this is not many companies out there. Hardly globally, there would be, even till today, maybe 15, 20 companies who are building for construction. It's of a decent size, right? And last 1 year, it has actually taken off. A lot of people have seen construction as an opportunity. But we were one of the first ones. I think in India, there were two, three people who were still trying to do construction robotics, but we were one of the first ones, right? So that is how construction happened. And the moment we deployed our first material handling machine on a construction site, and we got a repeat order, that was our
Okay.
first spark that, okay, there's something which is working. Because it has never happened in my sprayer or a lawnmower or the scooter. It has never happened. It is happening
Right.
here, which means there's something which you're solving. It's a real problem. Then we started going, and every customer we talked to, it became very clear that there is a scope. Let's just now build it. And that's when that entire execution mentality, because we said it is
Right.
hardware, we have not done it. It's a difficult industry. Construction is not an easy industry to automate. There's a reason why the industry has not adopted technology a lot, right? There are a lot of forces at play. So it's a tough one. How do you crack it, right? And that's why I say, right, ideas are dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Execution is where I think you win the battle, right? So we kind of took a very measured, calibrated approach to build the hardware, build the first MVP, take it to the customer. We deployed it, even though it was not really completely ready. We said, let's just put it out there. And I think that really helped us, because the insights we got after that were the real insights, which were real problems. And we started solving them one by one, one by one. Hardware took a while. Like our machines, construction sites are brutal. They are very bad. The terrain is bad,
Very unorganized.
very unorganized. So
Yeah.
our hardware took a very bad beating, but then we came back, we started reinforcing everything, created a better design. Now we have already gone through 5 iterations. We are on V5 right now, but 2 years ago our V1 was very different, right? And
So your
uh,
V1 for construction was the same as your V1 for the other product that you started with?
not really, not really. There were
So it was
overlaps.
different.
There were overlaps in terms of the
Hmm.
drivetrain. There were overlaps, but
Okay.
the environment was very different. So hence the
Right.
calibration was very different. But in terms of
Right.
the underlying electric drivetrain, battery, maybe motor power has changed, but the drivetrain more or less had a lot of earlier learnings that we could apply here from our previous experiments. Like the sprayer chassis became our base for construction material movement, right? So kind of
Got
there
it.
was a starting point, but then
Hmm.
we improvised a lot, because the moment we went to the field, we realized that things which will never break in an agriculture field, but they will not work on a construction side because of the type
Right.
of terrain we have. So we improvise a lot on hardware. Took almost a year for us to perfect the hardware. And after that, only we realize the other issues which are coming in the electronics, and then the autonomy on top of it, and the sensors and all that, right? So it took a while, but I think our this approach of building a incremental building, and with every increment, you should still be able to deploy. So it should not happen that
Right.
you're doing a change, but this change is not deployable. I think that approach really helped us, because that is
Okay.
what gave us the real insights on what is required in the field. So for every sensor that I add, for every new additional control layer that I add, it should be deployable. That approach really helped us to keep building hardware in multiple iterations. Like we were at any point in time working on 2 versions in parallel. One version, which
Okay.
is basically add on to the current version so that it can go into the field. And other
Right.
version,
And
which is
another,
basically our end product, which is what we think
interesting.
that eventually this is how it should
It
look
should
like.
be. Yeah.
It look
Wow.
like. So
Interesting.
it's
Okay.
difficult. Actually, it's very difficult. And
Yeah.
lot of people now tell
Oh,
us
okay.
that, how did you,
We
yeah,
will get back to
sure,
that. Yeah.
sure. That I think is something which you
Yeah, how
can,
did
yeah,
you do? Just
share
what you
more.
just said, that many
Yes.
people were like, how did you do? So
Yeah.
that's where, like, let's go back to the phase wherein you said that you took about 3.5 months to study the market. Once you understood, okay, yeah, we're getting another second order from the construction industry. So what is it that you did in that 3.5 months?
So we were talking to some construction companies, and they said that last mile of material movement on construction site is a problem, right?
Okay,
The trucks
who
will
were you
come.
talking to in the
So,
construction?
so
Like, who
this
are these
is,
people who are like responsible?
it's a builders, contractors. Like in this case, we were talking to Total Environment, which is one of the builders based in Bangalore.
So who
So,
were you talking to in that company? Who was
so
this
in that
person in
company,
charge?
we were talking to people who are responsible for uh, site operations. Basically, there's generally every construction company has this vertical called plant and machinery. So we
Okay.
were talking to plant and machinery people who are responsible for putting machines on construction site. That
Got
is
it.
their core
Okay.
responsibility.
They
And
are they try
yeah,
to see which is the machine
which is the
they
machine
need
which
and
can
then
help, right?
okay.
And then we were also
Got it.
talking to the operations team, the site operations team, who are basically responsible for delivering the project, right? So PNM team has to improve the automation or efficiency, but eventually operations team has to deliver it, right? So they are the ones supposed to
Right.
decide whether I want to automate something or not, right? Even though
Okay.
PNM team
Because
can
then
come
the
and say, okay, this
quality.
is good. I say, no, I don't
Huh.
want to do this because my timelines are this. I have different
So it's
constraints,
about
whatever.
timelines, the costing, the
Costing,
quality of
timeline,
the
quality,
huh.
feasibility of the tech on the site itself. Some sites cannot
Right,
automate, right?
right.
Every site is unique,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
we kind of talk to both and then try to merge the
Got it.
insights, right? Because we realize that the plant and machinery guy is a tech guy. He'll say, yeah, do this,
Hmm.
add this
Right.
capability, do this, make a
Hmm.
multifunctional, multi-model robot, and we will just move the world. Literally, we'll move the world. The moment you talk
Yeah,
to the operations team and say, oh yeah, you're moving the world. Okay, by the way, you know that
not here. There.
the rocks are very different. Here you cannot move the world. Okay. So I
Hmm.
think it was important again to talk
So
to
you
both
had
of them.
separate discussions with both, or like it was like
It used to be separate
together?
discussions. We used to go to site. So when you go to site, you talk
Hmm.
to the site
Hmm.
team. And then when you generally go
Hmm.
to the HO, you talk to the plant team, right?
Right.
So it was all
Got
mix and
it.
match. And some
Hmm.
places, again, through our network, we were fortunate enough to get some senior leadership and get their insights. Because somebody
Hmm.
who is working in the industry for 50 years can tell you what has not happened and why it will happen now. Like this
Hmm.
question was, people used to ask us that, what makes you think that it will change now? Why now?
Hmm.
That was a question in our mind also, right? To
So
be
it's about
frank,
you answer to even find out for yourself and also answer,
absolutely.
convince them.
Absolutely. Because as I
So how
said,
did
right,
you do that?
for us, it's very important to answer that question because you are putting best years of your life after something.
Yeah.
And if you go after a wrong problem, you only have
So
limited
how did you
time.
get that answer?
So as I said, one is mix the operations, what is happening on the ground, put a layer of automation on top of it and validate that with the automation team,
Hmm.
and then on top of it put your own research on it, that okay, why we think, right? So go and connect it to some other geography, that okay, how are people in US doing it, how are people in
Hmm.
China doing it, right? Because if this
Hmm.
guy is telling me it's a problem, which means somebody in China would also say,
Yeah, it
so
helps. Yeah,
did they solve this problem? If yes, how did they do it, right? If
of
not,
course.
what is it I will do so that it will do? So you put all those
Right.
logics on top of it and keep asking questions to yourself, right?
Right.
Because it's very easy to just take a customer on face value. Ah, you are asking that build this, I'll build this for you. Be careful. Okay, I build this for you, but why? Why is he asking me to build?
Hmm.
Why is he not just calling a vendor in China and getting this machine from him? Why is he asking me? Why is he not getting this solution anywhere? Why is his current vendor not doing it? So you have to ask those questions.
So
That
it's
is
about
when,
asking questions to the people you're deploying it with,
and
but
to yourself.
also to yourself and your
Absolutely.
team. It's about
Absolutely.
asking a lot of
Yeah.
silly questions, I
And
guess.
being very critical there, right? Don't take
Right.
anything on face value because, and
Right.
again, more so customers in India, they are very optimistic. They will always say, I need this. Yeah, automate this, I will
Hmm.
take this. When you
Hmm.
actually take it to the customer And again, hard learnings from my previous startup when we used to build it and take it to
Right.
customer, and customer say, "Oh no, this is not what I wanted," or "Okay, I wanted this, but at this
Right.
price point. What you're telling me, this
Right.
price point.
There'll be some buts.
At
Yeah.
this price point, it doesn't work." So the entire
Hmm.
effort is waste. So you have to be very, very critical. You have to keep asking that question: Why? Why is he asking me to
Right.
build it? What is that unique thing? And you get answers. If you don't ask that question, you might find that 3 months later you've lost a lot of time and money in that. So we did that. I was asking that question, and we were getting conviction with every additional piece of information. We were getting
Hmm.
better conviction that okay, this looks like the things are falling into place. There is a real problem. We can solve that problem in the price point that a customer wants, and it is creating a tangible impact. So let's start with the journey of material handling, right? Material handling on the construction site. That became our problem statement because again, because of the legacy work we did in last 3 years to understand material movement and then moving the material, moving the robot autonomously, use that as a backdrop and immediately very quickly create a material handling solution, right? Rather than picking a painting robot or a wall finishing robot or a tiling robot, which would have been starting from ground zero, you have to do everything from scratch. Take the learnings from what we've done till now and pick up the use case where I can use that learning, which was material handling. So that's how we created our first product, which is a electric wheelbarrow kind of. In construction we call it wheelbarrow. So it's an electric wheelbarrow which can carry 500 kgs, half a ton from one point to other point, which has all the sensors and then ability to perceive and navigate around and all that. So that's how we created our first product. And with every subsequent sales pitch, every subsequent customer conversation, our conviction
Right.
kept building that okay, this is
So,
problem, let's solve it.
this first product came after the end of 3.5 months, was it?
Kind of, yes, you can say
Kind
around
of.
around
So that
around three
was what
months
was
and
happening in the entire months of a lot of conversation, asking
a lot
questions,
of
trying to
conversation.
see
And
with the tech
yeah,
what
and in
works with
those
the tech.
three
Yeah.
months what we were also doing was to establish the technical feasibility. So you have to establish the use case
Right.
feasibility, which customer will tell you. We
Right.
also wanted in those 3.5 4 months to make sure it is possible to do this. It is
Right.
possible to create an electric wheelbarrow which will run on a construction site in this price point that we're
Hmm.
talking about. Otherwise, again, if it's not possible and you don't know how to do it, at least you should
Hmm.
have a way, right? That, okay, maybe not now, but 3 months from now, 6 months from now, I will be able to create a machine which can do this material shifting in the price point that customer wants. Right. So we were doing
Get
both of
it.
that. We were doing
And
some
so
experiments.
how do you reach the price point of okay,
Uh,
like because that also
so
comes in that
it is
3 months are wherein okay, this is the price point and how do you get to that
It was a bit
number?
tricky. It was a bit tricky because we didn't have any precedent to actually go after. There were
Right.
no metric.
Right.
So what we realized was that our competition, what are we replacing, right? Well, we are replacing whatever work that our machine will do is either done by a human being today by carrying it manually on his shoulders or in head or just pulling, or through a wheelbarrow or through a crane or something, right? So we started picking some numbers from there on how much customers are spending on doing that. And can I do the same work in maybe give them a 50% savings? So if they're spending 1 lakh on something and I can do the same thing in 50,000 rupees, I think that is a very sweet, right? 50% savings is something which is good for someone to try my solution out, right? It could be 10%, 15%, we said, but 10%, 15% doesn't cut it. 50% if we can do, that's where it would really take off. And we kept that as a benchmark. Pricing also evolved a bit as we went along. It evolved a bit, but that was the starting point. Find out how much they're spending today and see if we can do it in half the cost. That's what we try to do.
Then accordingly you
Uh,
try to hire the right kind of people from the tech
Hiring again is been something which happened in the
in
hindsight that
that
okay,
phase.
let me finalize the product and then go for hiring.
Okay.
It was happening. So when we were doing those iterations, even before
Hmm.
that, for lawn mower or for a sprayer, we were hiring people, and we were hiring people for their ability to uh, contribute to the core product, right? So the electronics or the embedded or the vision-based autonomy system or the sensor or the fusion perception, obstacle avoidance, right? So these are things which are common no matter what use
Right.
case it is. So we were anyways hiring for these capabilities and competencies. Like electric drivetrain was a very strong capability that we had already built by them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's not possible for you to build a hardware product in 3.5 months. But because we had already
Right.
figured out our ability, okay, what motor could work, what controller could work, what type of battery voltage should I go after, that information was already there in the team, in the competency was already there in
Hmm.
the team. And that's why we could build it in 3.5, 4 months. Otherwise, you don't build hardware products in 3.5, 4 months if you start
Right.
from scratch. So the capabilities were there. We kept on adding to them, but we never hired with saying that, okay, this is what I want to build. So let me hire someone.
Who's
We always went to say that, okay, what are the foundation capabilities, right? These are three, four foundation
okay.
capabilities. I need someone to
Mhm.
build the hardware. We need someone to build the electric drivetrain on top of it with
Hmm.
knowledge of motors, controllers, batteries, so on and so forth. And I need someone to have the AI layer on top of it, which again is divided into two pieces. One is the edge piece, which is where I have a sensor and a compute, and the cloud piece, which is where I have the entire backend, right? So kind of these are the
Got
three,
it.
four things that you need to have in place, no matter what product
So
you
you
build.
had all of this, you've done all of this in-house, or did you outsource it to some vendor?
No,
Like
I think
what
most of
part
it
did
manufacturing, actual fabrication was
so maybe
outsourced.
let's talk about the
Yeah,
prototype first.
yeah,
So for
yeah.
the prototype, how did you go about doing it?
So
Because doing everything in-house must be a
it
challenge
is
for
a
the
challenge,
first
right?
prototype,
Yeah. So
initial prototype.
the
Yeah.
hardware piece is outsourced. Still, even till today, hardware is fabrication is
Okay.
outsourced. Design is done
Okay.
by us. Fabrication is outsourced.
Hmm.
Electronic, the drivetrain is something that we had to build. So we build our own PCB, our own design, our own harness. That is something which we couldn't outsource because we were iterating. We were building and iterating at the same time. You cannot outsource something where you are actually figuring it out while
And
building it.
is it like that becomes your USP as well?
Uh, kind of, but again, not something which can be a differentiator for long because
Okay.
it's once you do it, then it's very easy for someone to see it and do it again.
Hmm.
But first time for you to do it, to figure out what is the right motor, right voltage, type of harness, what type of uh, uh, peripherals that I keep, all that took a while to figure out. So it was a USP, but we know that beyond the point that USP doesn't hold because anybody can copy it by seeing it. Same thing goes for hardware also. Copying the hardware is not a difficult thing anymore. But when you are doing it for the first time, you have to go through that grind. The third piece, which is basically after the hardware and electronics, is the autonomy piece, which is where we are really putting the intelligence on top of the robot. That I think is the completely, that is where we think that the biggest differentiating factor as well as USP is, and that is where we spend a lot of time and energy also. So that is completely in house. Models are obviously open source, from YOLO to OpenCV to different type of models that we are using for navigation to move base to ROS. All of that were open source. But then we built our own kind of the stack for perception and navigation to at least for the first product, to build it by to run it by itself, and then that piece has always remained in house. That is something that we have never outsourced. But fabrication is, as I said, completely outsourced still.
How do you manage the cost of your first prototype?
I think this is again a very kind of hard learned insight, right? So there are generally, when you talk to people in robotics, you will hear two approaches. One approach is I call it top down, where we say, okay, find the best sensor, best compute, and best stack that I can take and make it work. And then later
Hmm.
on, figure out how to bring the cost down. The second
Hmm.
approach is start from the other side and say, okay, keep pushing it until is what is good enough. If just 1 HP is good enough or 1.5 HP is required or 2 HP is required, right? This approach is saying over provision. This approach is saying just do good enough. So we actually followed this approach where we said, okay, let's just keep pushing it, right? So
Okay.
let's design it. Don't do a lot of over provisioning and design it. And then we'll keep adding things as we go along.
Okay.
I don't
Hmm.
know right or wrong, but that really, again, probably helped us a lot because we were
Okay.
kind of doing adding layers rather than stripping layers, right? Because stripping layers,
Okay.
again, first is you spend a lot because the sensors are expensive, versus other side, what you do is you say, okay, something which is good enough, right? So it kind of builds a very frugal innovation mindset into the team. They also start
Got it.
thinking on the same thing that, okay, do I need this sensor? Do I need this extra line of code? Do I need this extra thing? Without compromising on security, because safety is paramount, right? So you don't compromise on
Right.
that, and then you balance this functionality. That I think is very important for anybody who is building a robotics, and it's not intuitive. It doesn't come to you intuitively. You have to train yourself to think on those lines, push yourself, which is difficult because it's easy,
Okay.
right? Let me just buy a higher compute later. I can just maybe spend 50,000 extra. Later on, I'll strip it down. That's a very
Hmm.
intuitive way of doing it. In some cases, it might be good. For our case, it didn't really work. Ground up thing, adding layer, adding every sensor with very clear, measurable impact that it will
Right.
have helped us.
So this, you are still working on construction robots by um, working with the existing products and then making it autonomous, or you have your own product as well?
Our own product. So even earlier, our MVP was something which was completely grounds up designed by us. So it's not really, we couldn't find anything which we can where we can put our stack on. This was completely,
Okay.
even the sprayer, the lawnmower, all the machines that I
Hmm.
talked about were completely designed by us, fabricated
Okay.
by
So
us.
now you are doing the entire solution.
Entire solution, the hardware, the
Right.
entire thing is our design. It's not really that we are taking it and putting it on somebody else. That only happened with
Oh,
scooter. After scooter, we whatever we designed, we realized that for a good robot, and especially the nascent stages that we are in, the use cases are
hmm.
very unexplored. Having a fully vertically integrated stack helps, because your
Okay.
autonomy, for example, has a lot of dependency on the way control system would behave, and control system has a lot
Right.
of dependency on the way your hardware would behave, right? So what type of tolerances can I build in? So all of that, if you do in your control, it's easier to package the final output together,
Got
versus if
it.
you take a third party system and try to put it on top of it, right? So a lot of it depends on how mature the underlying vehicle itself is. In our case, we
Right.
said let's do a vertically integrated solution end to end, where we own the
Okay.
hardware, electronics, as well as the software.
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
Um, so, did you do any collaborations in this process? Like,
Uh, Not really, because I think we were in
no.
a very peculiar industry. There were not many people out there
Oh,
who could tell us that, okay, take this drivetrain because we have tested this in construction, it works. Nobody has done
hmm.
that before, or take this battery,
Right.
or take this motor. So kind of we couldn't really do a lot of. We tried a bit, like can we take at least a drivetrain from somebody who's building electric rickshaw? Can we actually take that and repurpose it? But eventually, I think we never got into a deeper collaboration. So that's not something which worked a lot for us.
Right.
More so because of the peculiarity of the use case in the industry. But
Got it.
I would definitely recommend at least founders who are hearing this, who are aspiring to do something in robotics, if they can find early collaboration, that really helps. It shortens
Hmm.
your entire GTM cycle significantly. Because your goal should be, as I said, to find out that fitment and use case. That is where you win the battle.
Right.
You don't win the battle
Hmm.
just by making the good product. There has
Hmm.
to be somebody who is use that good product and pay you the price that you command. Otherwise, that product
Right.
is not something which will fly off, right? So, if faster
Hmm.
you reach to that point, better it is. And collaboration is a very good way to reach that point faster, where you can do a very quick MVP, show it to customer, ask him
Right.
how much will you pay for this. Okay, this is making sense. Unit economics is making sense, or at least you can see a path to it. Now go for it. So definitely, if you can
Great.
collaborate, you should.
Okay. Great. And so right now you're working on RAS model?
We are working on RAS model. We are also selling some of the robot, but our primary mode of deployment is RAS, where we charge a monthly subscription amount to the
Okay.
customer for the entire thing end to end, including the robot, the support, the spares, maintenance, plus the back end to manage the machine, monitoring everything end to end. We charge a monthly subscription to the customer.
Okay. How many robots do you have in your portfolio now?
So around 45 machines we have deployed till now,
You have
across
deployed 45 machines.
45
Okay.
machines across 20 projects in around 10 cities in India. So one of
Oh,
our
nice.
L&T is one of our biggest customers. So with L&T, we have
Okay.
done a lot of projects from hospitals to data centers, airport in Bhogapuram near Vishakhapatnam. We have deployed our machines. Then for commercial complexes, residential complexes, we've done a variety of projects we have been able to cover with
Mhm.
customers like L&T across different terrains, across different geographies.
Okay. And how many robots are there? Like total number is 45, but like how many specific robots do you have in your portfolio? Like one is for wall painting and then one is
Right
for like
now,
how is it?
all these 45 are only material handling. That is the only robot which is in
Oh,
production
okay.
right now. Wall
Got it.
finishing and all is still in the prototyping. We have not really deployed it yet.
Okay.
The only product running in the field is the material movement robot. There also
Got
we
it.
have a autonomous and non-autonomous version. Non-autonomous version is where you have this remote control through which you can drive. So a lot of places the
Right.
non-autonomous version is also
Okay.
deployed, and
So
that.
all these 45 ones are all bought by the company, or you, how much percentage is either?
So out of 45, we have 12 machines which are kind of sold upfront, and remaining
Hmm.
33 are running on rental, where we are managing
Okay.
the entire
And all of them
operations
are
end to
like,
end.
they all operate and they all look alike, or is there any customization that you do?
Um, that we don't do customization as such for a
Hmm.
specific customer, but they don't look alike because we keep evolving, right? So out of these 33, the first 4 or 5 machines were on a previous design V3. Next 15-20 are on V4, and last the what we have deployed in last 2 months is all on V5. So they look different. V5 is
Got
very
it.
very different from what we did in V4. Where we moved to a different drivetrain. We are now using BLDC motors. The gearboxes have changed. The entire panel, electronics panel has changed. There's the significant change which is happening version by version. So they look really different, but they are still
Mhm.
tackling the exact same use case, which is
Got it.
last mile of material movement on a construction site. So they do that work, but they are improving. Obviously, every subsequent version is better than the previous one.
Hmm. Got it. Okay. Did you
Yeah.
hire any consultants over a period of time?
We did. So I
Yeah.
think there were a lot of times when we realized that there is one problem where we have to go very deep to find a appropriate solution. And
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to break our head, let's get an expert involved, right? So we did a lot of experts for a vision system, for sensors, for embedded systems, even for mechanical design. We got a lot of. So that is something which we, I think, kept on doing it. We always had a pool of consultants whom we were taking, and then whom we were asking them to give their critical review on what we are doing or help them solve a very peculiar problem, go very deep into something, and then give us a specific solution for our use case. So
Mm-hmm.
we have actually used consultants extensively
Mm.
during our product building phase.
Okay. So, from your first material handling robot deployment to your 45, what was your time period like?
1.5 years. One and a
One
half
and a half
years. Yeah,
years.
1.5 years it
Okay.
took for us. And
So, is there, yeah.
now recently last month we did our first deployment in Dubai. So now we have
Okay.
operations in Dubai, and eventually in Middle East also is what we are planning. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
took us 1.5 years to reach here.
Okay. So, you think it's a decent journey, or you think there's a way you could have shortened this journey?
No, I think we have done a pretty good job of it, because a lot of people
Hmm.
tell us that generally this thing is something which should take 2.5 years. So somehow
Yeah.
I think we have actually done few things right. A lot of learnings. If I have to do it again, obviously it should be lesser than that time. But but I think we did a few things right. This is not a very long span of time, specifically given the amount of variability in our terrain and the type
Okay.
of
Yeah.
use case that we are tackling. I think we have done a decent job. Obviously, we can fast track few things. Uh, and that also is a function of the amount of funds you have, right? So we have not raised a lot.
Right.
Till date,
Yeah.
we have only
I was
raised
getting
around
there.
around 800K is all what we have raised, and now we are raising
Oh,
our pre-series A. But
got it.
where we have reached till now, if it's 45 machines, is around 7 crores is all what we have raised. So it also that also probably shapes some of the decisions that you are taking in terms of
Right. Right.
building the product and then taking it out there, right?
Right. So, when did you raise your first round of 7 crores?
So first, no, so we didn't raise 7 crores in single round. Our first round
Okay.
was 3.2 crores that we raised
Mm-hmm.
in January 2022. Which is what was the pre-product pre-revenue. That time it was very very early pre-seed,
So
you can call it.
that was when you just had a idea
Idea,
with you.
and we had done some prototyping by that time. We had done some prototyping. We had done some one or two.
Was that before the 3 month period that we spoke about?
Yeah, that was before the 3 month period. Correct.
Before.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
you hadn't even had much conversations around in the market
Correct.
then.
Not for the current use case where we are working on. This was still for the
Got it.
agriculture. We were doing something on scooter.
Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay.
it was that time when
Right.
we raised that funds that, okay, we are trying something like this. And then there are people
Right.
who
And then you
said, okay.
pivoted.
And then we
Hmm.
pivoted, right? In between, we raised
Oh.
a couple of more small rounds of 1.5 to 2 crores. We didn't want to raise much till the time we get this fitment.
Mhm.
So we also got some investment from IIS, Indian Institute of Sciences, through their
Yeah.
incubator called Art Park. So
Art
through Art
Park.
Park,
Yeah.
we raised some money from them. So with that, something or the other kept coming. And then by last year, January, February last year is when we realized that, okay, now this is the time for us to go and raise funds. Because we kind of now can see the journey ahead, how this will shape up, what type of geographies we will tackle,
Right.
what type of products we will build in, and all that, right? So again,
Mm.
uh, we can debate on it on what is the right funding approach, but the approach
Yeah.
which worked for us was raise small amounts in probably a span of a year, rather than raising one big round, right? Because then it might dilute you a lot, right? So either you raise a big round without diluting yourself a lot, that's the best case scenario. But if you cannot do that, maybe try to figure out small chunks and then keep improvising. And once you hit early PMF, is when you should go for a bigger
But
one,
but
right?
but
So
raising all at once can shorten your period from like 1 to 45.
it can, but at the same time, see, there are other factors also, right? So once you have committed to something and you have raised a big round, pivoting becomes difficult. You cannot pivot it to that then, because there are stakeholders, right? You have to now explain to them on why you are pivoting, what happened, right? How come something changed in a span of 6 months? 6 months ago, you were telling us that this is how it would work, right? So I think having that balance of flexibility, at the same time having enough capital. But again, in hindsight, if you ask me, uh, would if we would have raised one single large round, would have whether it would have helped? I think yes, it would have helped. But
Mm.
then we also run the risk that we might not have been able to raise at all, because raising a bigger round
Right.
might take time, but then it might not happen at
Time.
all, because not everybody has conviction on a use case like this, right? A construction robotics, how many people would understand, right? How many people will be able to really come to a point and take a decision to invest a very large sum in you if you're raising a big round, right? So you also
Right.
run the risk of running out of your runway and then not able to raise. Versus for a smaller one, we said, okay, we will be able to survive for sure, right? So again, there's no
Right.
right and wrong approach. I think there's a lot of context to every startup, every founder, in terms of the way they want to think about the journey. Being cognizant of that and then keeping that into account while taking these decisions will really help. But yeah, if you have to just go by the playbook, then I think, as you rightly said, getting one round early enough, big enough, definitely helps. But if you
Um.
don't, uh,
Right.
then what, right? So in our case, we couldn't get that, and hence we decided to do small chunks
Decide.
of.
So how do you
Uh,
decide on the amount and how do you pitch it?
amount is not something that we decide. So generally, rule of thumb is that you should have 18 months of runway, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
So it's the
uh,
same with the robotics hardware as well.
Again, robotics hardware, you should always have a buffer, right? So instead of 18, you should think of 24 months, right? But then it was also a function of how quickly can you put a round together, right? So we could put a 2 crore round together very easily by getting a angel network to lead the round, right? Versus if I have to
Okay.
do a 5 crore round, then we would need a micro VC or someone to lead the round with a bigger chunk, right? So I think
Hmm.
our thing was, some of this also happened. I don't think we could have planned it like that, right? Some of these things happen as you go along. That you came across someone and they said, "Okay, are you looking to raise?" And we said, "Yes, we are looking to raise." And so,
So
look,
you're
we
talking
only do
about
this much.
how do you like you were networking with people about raising funds and you kind of came across people who
Correct,
were
correct,
interested
correct. So
in
as
putting
a
money.
founder, again, as a robotics founder, I think that is something that you have to, whether you're raising or not, you have to keep talking to
Hmm.
investors. And
Keep
as you said, right,
networking,
because
basically. Yeah.
in this process, you're also telling them about the industry, like construction industry, what is happening in the industry, why we think this is,
Hmm.
all this is something which doesn't come overnight in one meeting.
Hmm.
You just keep seeding that thought, keep telling them about the progress, and then they build the conviction, right?
Right.
So
So you kept sending them the progress, or you kept meeting
kind
them
of kept
across
meeting them, kept telling
months
them what
and
it was,
right.
also hearing from them on what they think will be a point where what will give them conviction, right? What are the parameters that they
Right.
will
Right.
evaluate us on? Is it the
Right.
product? Is it the IP? Is it attraction? Is it a revenue? What is it that they would evaluate us on? That also helps, right? So when you're executing, you have
Right.
somewhere in back of your mind, you know that, okay,
Of course.
Just keep this in mind, right?
And where did you
Uh,
meet these people? Like, how did you meet these people?
so again, in my
And how
case,
many did you
because
meet? How
I
many
would
did
have
you
met.
meet?
So in my case, at least, because my previous startup experience, a lot of these investors, I
Hmm.
already knew them through
Right.
my previous network. But in FloMobility itself, I would have at least met 250 to 300 investors easily, maybe more than
Hmm.
that. Uh,
Hmm.
Easily, right? Because I think that's something happening. And as I said, because we were
Across
doing
India or across
across
all?
India, almost I would say there were people who were like value investors also with whom we were doing calls, but we were too early
Hmm.
for them. Even till now, we are
Hmm.
too early for them. But we did have call with people in Valley, global investors, Indian investors, angel investors, micro VCs, angel networks, right? There are so many angel networks now, uh, quite a
Hmm.
lot of them. And each conversation, obviously, it takes time. As sometimes it becomes a burden, right? And you have to somewhere push yourself and say, okay, let me do this, because there's no
Hmm.
immediate impact which will come out of those conversations, right? But you have to still keep doing them,
Right.
right? So,
And what was that point wherein what were the pointers which made the VCs interested in you and fund you?
uh, so again, I think we talk about Indian ecosystem and the context in which we
Hmm.
are operating VCs in India uh, in general, right? And we cannot paint everybody with the same brush, but in general, IP and traction are the two key things, right? IP,
Okay.
where you can show them that this IP will someday result into a 100x outcome, or traction, where you say that, okay, I'm working with L&T and L&T is giving me two projects, but they have 200 projects. With two projects, this is where I am with, out of 200, I get
Hmm.
80 projects with it. So you show them that path, right? So either a traction where you have a kind of a repeatable thing, which can give them the conviction that, okay, this can become a 100x outcome, or
Right.
the IP, which is so strong that you can say, okay, once this IP is commercialized, you can come give a 100x outcome. I think those are the two things in my view. Rest everything is obviously hygiene. You need to have a good team in place and all those things. But
Right.
these two things is where I think it really
It helped
moves
you
the
as well.
needle. And
You think that.
absolutely, absolutely, it really helps them to take a leap of faith and say, okay, looks like there is something worth looking into, and now let's put our effort and find out more. Right. Otherwise, in absence of these two, all what they are hearing is a narrative, right? And then they don't have points to say, okay, what do I do with this now, right? uh, Even for them to go and talk to people in the industry, they need to have enough
Right.
conviction to put in that time. Okay, let me go and talk to people in construction. Looks like something is there. But for them to have that much conviction itself, you need to show something, right? That, okay, this IP or this industry or this type of traction is what will lead us to so and so place. So I think Valley investors have a very different lens of looking at it. And again, as I said, the context is very different there.
Right.
The outcomes also are very different there. But then for Indian customers, I think irrespective of robotics, I think general also, these two things have always helped. Traction is the best way to say that what I'm
Got
building
it.
is useful.
Got it.
For deep tech, again, I think fortunately the VC ecosystem for deep tech is evolving
Hmm.
really well. I think that's something which is very good for the ecosystem. We have more deep tech investors now. We have more people who have understood, who have thesis on robotics, who have thesis on specific industries, who have thesis on automation across the board, right? Whether you are a peripheral player, whether you are making a sensor which will go and somewhere be used in automation industry, right? So that also has a thesis of its own, the component supply chain, right? The platform also is coming up with a thesis. The backend software also, fleet management software, for example, right now, there are people who understand these pieces, and founders who are building for these pieces will get much better audience as compared to what we would get 5 years ago, when you are mostly talking about something that they've not heard about.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about the future of construction robots. Like they have dark factories. Would there be a concept of dark construction
Ah,
sites? I don't know if that
interesting.
even
Yeah.
means something, but then a
Yeah.
place wherein there are no humans, and then these robots are building the.
So I'll probably put in a different. So definitely something like that would happen, but yeah, we wouldn't call it dark factory. It is basically these days there's something called a modular construction. So basically, what you do is
Right,
part of the building is constructed somewhere else in a factory,
pre-constructed.
and you
Right.
build it to the site and you assemble it together. Like for example, in Dubai, when you build these high-rise residential complexes, the kitchens and the bathrooms are fabricated somewhere else. You just bring them here and put them on because they are slightly intricate piece of building, right? Rest all is just walls, so you cast them, but these pieces you do build somewhere else and then put them. So we foresee that as this factoryization of construction happens, where part of this will be done in factory, automation would increase, right? Because factories, as I said, compared to a construction site, a construction related factory would be much more streamlined. You have a kind of assembly line type of place. There's a flow sequence of activities in which the things are happening. So that really opens up a lot of possibilities for automation,
Okay.
for
Hmm.
construction automation specifically.
Because it
And
might
secondly,
organize the sector kind of.
absolutely. But
Hmm.
having said that, again, very early, right? That would still be only just
Hmm.
2, 3, 5%, maybe 10% in next 3 to 4 years, 5 years. Bulk of the construction is still happening on the site where you're casting, and you're talking about
Yeah.
large projects, right? Across the board. You talk about infra, you talk about metros, hospitals, ports. So much with urbanization, there's so much structures that that we are building across the planet, right? From bridges to schools. So lot of work will still happen on the site. Specifically, the work we call it finishing trades, right? So once you build the structure, you have to do so many things. As I said, finish the wall, you have to put tiles on it, you have to probably put a paint on it, put some interior on that. Right? There's so much work which will happen on the site only, which is where we feel that robots can add value. Today, that work is almost completely manual. You have tools, but still there will be a human who will be operating those tools and doing it, which has a lot of impact. Right? It has quality challenges, it has cost challenges, it has availability of people challenges. Right? So
Right.
that is a place where robot can create a value, right? Something which is very
Hmm.
repetitive in case, something where your human fatigue uh, creates impact on the output, on the quality, where you can work for longer hours and do the same thing again and again. Some places are risky. Demolition, for example, is a use case in construction which is very risky. A robot can go ahead and do that, right? So multiple use cases we foresee across the board in construction. There are a
Got
lot of opportunities that
So,
can
which
be
which
tapped.
products you are or you might be coming up with next 5 years?
So for us, at least uh, two more products that we have in pipeline. One of them is a wall finishing robot, where we are making a kind of robot, which is an extension of our current one, reusing the capabilities again, but applying it for a very different use case of finishing the walls, right? So wall finishing uh, for applying the gypsum putty on the wall and things like that, and eventually also use that for painting, right? So wall finishing and painting is something which is there on our radar. Apart from them, floor tiling is also something which is there on our radar. Uh,
Hmm.
there are other companies who are working on things like, let's say, a 3D printing or a bricklaying robot. Not something that we are very bullish on, but some of them are actually doing good, right? So 3D printing as a
Hmm.
technology also would take off in construction, but we don't foresee ourselves playing a lot of role in that. We would be more
Okay.
focusing on, as I said, finishing trades automation. That is what will become our
Hmm.
forte, where you finish things before you actually hand over the structure to the end customer. So that is
Hmm.
where we'll be focusing on automating more and more use cases in that period, in that duration of the construction.
Okay. Great. So, we'll be seeing you then in robotics sector now that you this is like your fourth to fifth startup. So, is this your space? Can you say that?
Absolutely. No, I think last 4 years has been an amazing learning journey, both
Yeah.
from a uh, technology landscape perspective as well as the way customers have started seeing automation, right? And things are changing. Last few years, things have changed, I think. And we were fortunate to see this transition, right? Where, and maybe play our small part in that transition where we are make, we are saying that it is actually possible to automate some task which nobody could ever think before can be automated, right? Construction, housing, for example, is not something which people are thinking about automating at all, right? So that ways, I think I'm very, very bullish on the sector. Also, in last few years, we have seen this kind of transformation in terms of the sensors that are coming in. Very, very powerful, beautiful piece of hardware which is coming out. Sensors are becoming cheaper. Compute is becoming cheaper. building hardware is now becoming more efficient day by day as we go because of the new manufacturing techniques and technologies, right? So overall, the sector is poised for a exponential growth in my view, right, across the board, right? Because it's becoming easier day by day to build robots. There are a lot of things that you can pick and put together a product. The winning point, or the way to win this battle still would be marrying your capability to a use case. That is where the code has to be cracked, right? So any robotics founder who is hearing this and who aspires to start by on his own or on her own, uh, uh, I would suggest that balance this out, right? It's becoming easier to build product in hardware also, right? With 3D printing, with new technologies, very quickly figure out something, take it to customer and pick a use case. And once you pick a use case, every use case across the globe, there are so many opportunities if you can do that, because each one of them are massive opportunities. Every task that you can automate through a robot is a massive opportunity, both in industrial automation as well as the home automation. Even the consumer automation also I can see is taking off. Now, whether humanoids will rule that or whether it will be something else is a debate we can have. But even in consumer automation, I would say home automation or consumer automation, where you see more products like a Roomba, which is doing the home cleaning, you will see products. You will see assistance robots. You will see a senior care robots. You will see education robots on the consumer robotic side also. So that also is a huge space which I think is ready for disruption. And industrial automation, anyways, as I said, is something which is happening here and now. So very bullish on the sector, here to stay. And as I said, we are just raising our pre-series A. We are just getting started. This is the time for FloMobility as a company now to take a leap. And I think robotics also is taking a big leap. A lot of energy I see in India, the Indian robotics founder. I think a lot of energy, a lot of skills coming out of people who are coming out of colleges are coming up with these skills, working on microprocessors, working on microcontrollers. We need to channelize this energy, and I think we can have leading global robotics companies come out of India.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. If they crack the use case, I guess,
Execution, yeah,
that's the
crack the
game.
use
And
case and
execution,
figure
of
out. Yeah,
course.
don't die.
Yeah.
Figure out the use case till the time. Just figure out
So
to
it's
stay
all
afloat.
about,
Yeah,
yeah, it's all about going on the floor and talking to people.
talking to people, find that
Anyways,
insight
like
and
either
build on
finding
it.
the customers, finding money,
Absolutely.
finding deployments, yeah, everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
wow, interesting.
Absolutely.
Uh, I think this conversation with you has like snowballed, and there's so much more that I want to ask you, but then we will come back to your journey
Sure.
maybe again in some time, um, because there's so much more that this journey of yours can give value to the people who are trying to build or who want to build in like next 6 months to 1 year. So for sure, we'll definitely come back to you
Sure. Happy to
and
share. Yeah. And
with some
as you
more
said, right,
questions.
I think you need not do all the mistakes by yourself to learn.
Yeah,
Whatever mistakes
sure.
we have done, we can share at least so
Yeah,
that others don't do that mistake, and all of us grow as a community. So happy
yeah,
to be part of
for
this.
sure.
Thanks a lot for inviting me, and was
Yeah,
really pleasure talking to you.
thank you so much. I just hope this conversation adds value to the all the robotics community.